Before we proceed with today's discussion, a quick introduction about myself to my new listeners, subscribers. So my name is Omobola Adekola, but you can call me Omobi. That's my podcast host name, and I support businesses to do business in Africa or to expand their operations into Africa. So that's just a quick one, and you can check me out on LinkedIn and Omobola Adekola. So moving into today's episode, last week we started a deep dive into the I5 priorities of the Africa Development Bank 10-year strategy, and we looked at Light Up and Power of Africa last week. So this week we are, or should I say today, we are moving into the Feed Africa. What are the ambitions? What are the challenges? And what are the opportunities available within that space or within the agri sector in Africa? And what are the plans of the bank in respect of boosting or scaling up investments within the space? Let's go right into it. So the goal really, or should I say the objective, is to strengthen food security for Africa through a transformation of African agriculture. And the ambition for 2033 is that Africa's farmers, by the end of the 10-year strategy, that's in 2033, they will be able to feed the continent and supply vibrant agro-processing industries. The report goes on to note that increasing farm yields and diversifying food systems will, of course, reduce Africa's dependence on food imports and set the scene for self-reliance, equipping the agricultural sector with capacity for global markets. So let's go right into the opportunities and challenges. The report notes that the agri sector is the key to Africa's social, economic, and environmental transformation, and it provides some stats that agri accounts for 1/4 of Africa's GDP. That's a much higher share than other developing regions. And whilst Africa is urbanizing rapidly, agriculture still remains a mainstay or a source of livelihoods, and that's for most people. And some other developing regions, transforming agriculture has been the major driver of progress, raising yields and quality to feed their growing urban populations. But that's not the case with Africa. Africa's farms, even though output has been expanded 3 to 4% annually since 2000, it's by just bringing new land under cultivation. Africa's yields are low. So, for instance, the report shows example, the cereal yields in Africa is just about half of yields found in India, cereal yields found in India and Bangladesh, and also for maize yields in Southeast Asia, they are like 4.7 tons per hectare compared with 2 tons in East Africa, where maize is a food staple. So basically, the yield gap is the main issue. So let's just look at some of the challenges very quick. The report knows that the yield gap is linked to gaps in infrastructure, markets, and policies, and currently there are about just less than 10% of Africa's cultivated land is irrigated. That means more of agricultural land is rain-fed, and there's limited fertilizer, which keeps yields low and of course depletes soil nutrients. So there's a plan for increased use of fertilizers. Let's look at some other challenges. The food insecurity crisis. So Africa faces a growing food security crisis. COVID-19 contributed to that. High global food prices, global shocks, climate shocks, and sub-regional conflicts that led to food insecurity in Africa. Of course, despite the fact that we have abundant arable land, that Africa's trade deficit sits at USD 50 billion per year. So for those that are not aware, trade deficit simply means we import more than we export in Africa. So as a result, Africa is vulnerable to disruption in international markets, and of course the volatile food prices that has led to increased cost of fuel and fertilizers and driving up production costs in Africa. Climate change is also a factor, and so warming scenarios above 1.5 degrees centigrade threshold could bring about major yield reductions. And let's quickly look at investment needs, that is the opportunities. So the report looked that the investment needs are substantial, and of course there's potential for social and economic recovery. About USD 40 billion per year is needed to transform agricultural production in 18 value chains. And more of this will come from the investment will come from the private sector, and this opportunity can open up. This investment can open markets worth 85 billion USD annually. So there is a need for strategic investment in infrastructure, markets, policies, and value addition, which could rapidly close Africa's yield gap. So let's look at the bank priorities. There are four priorities of the bank in addressing this. So the bank will work with African governments to invest in scaling up successful agricultural technologies in order to boost agri productivity and increase access to high yield climate adapted crop varieties. So first one, investing in climate smart agricultural value chains. This will be done by strengthening input and output market, production support, improving post-harvest activities, and agro-processing. This will also cover local and regional value chains to support farmers and agribusiness to take advantage of the opportunities created by the AfCFTA. So young people and women are said to be key actors, and in this value they will benefit greatly. The next is to expand input supply chains. That's by providing lower cost and more reliable inputs such as seeds and fertilizers, while promoting successful marketing models for farmers, traders, and SMEs. So there's going to be finance extension for agribusiness and development of special agro-industrial processing zones. The next one, the priority is also to improve nutrition outcomes by increasing the availability of nutritional foods and other nutrition smart investments in line with multi-sectoral nutrition action plan. And finally, there's also the plan to support regional and national research and development institutions to help strengthen their agricultural policies, promote innovative tech, as well as nature-based solutions such as agroecology. The report also notes that in January 2023, Africa's head of states and government committed to accelerate investments in food and nutrition security. So the bank is setting up and coordinating a collaboration platform to work with partners, including private institutions, on this. So this is where we're wrapping up for today's episode, and as usual, the podcast is for educational purposes only. If you need information or advice on expanding your business across Africa, entering into new African markets, please reach out to me. My name is Omobola Adekola, and until the next episode, I say to you, bye-bye.